Hey everybody, as you can see the sun is shining, so I'm going to quickly jump out on the bike and make a video while I can between the rain. It's been honestly non-stop rain the past couple of weeks here. It's really thrown a lot of my plans out the window. Anyway, I want to talk about some recent sort of announcements I've seen from Honda, which is quite interesting. Three of them in fact that I'm going to talk about. The first one, which is the most recent one, the one that people will be most interested in, is the fact they've got a new engine coming for the new Hornet. And the naked sort of range of bikes. It is a 755cc, I think. It is of course a parallel twin at a 270 degree firing angle on the crank, which means it is basically the Honda MT-07. And that's not a bad thing necessarily, because the MT-07 engine, although I've never got to ride the MT-07 itself, only the XRS, it's a great sort of middle ground figures. You know, you've got nearly 800cc, which is a great point to be. The overall horsepower of that engine means that it's still restrictable for an A2 license. It's got good bottom end grunt and a little bit of top end, because it's got, you know, the parallel twin but firing in an order which makes it more like a V-twin. I can totally get why lots of people went for the MT-07 and why it's, you know, been proved to be a very popular engine with lots of different things, and why we're seeing variants of that within lots of other brands now. And as I say, Honda's going down this same route. This engine's going to be fitted into next year's new release of, let's say, the Hornet, which has got a redesign. Aesthetically, I've seen some sketches, and I don't know if, I think that was Honda's sort of concept sketches, and of course, in the concept sketches, it looks great. But when you get the actual thing, it probably won't have the same lines, it'll probably not look nearly as good. Hope that's not the case, but it's always been the case with loads of different bikes. The current sketches, I will say, sort of, that they've shown look very KTM. Very, very KTM. In fact, they look very much like, what was it, the 790 concept from many years ago. And then they brought out the actual bike and it didn't look quite as good. I feel like that's probably going to be the case. And I've never really understood that, the whole thing of showing concepts that look so good and then giving you this really sort of bland version. You know, it's like getting a really nice tailored suit with intricate sort of designs and stuff, and then when you get the real thing, it's much more plain and looks like it may have just come out of a packet. But yeah, that's an interesting one to watch, and that's coming up soon. The other thing is that Honda have announced that they're going to release 10 or more electric motorcycles in the next 3 years, roughly, by 2025. Now this is interesting for a couple of reasons. One, it's showing Honda's hand towards the future and what they have in mind, being electric and not the other options, although there is one, and it's an interesting one, so that's going to be my last thing to talk about. But they've said they're releasing 10 new models of electric bikes. They mostly look like scooters. A lot of people said, oh, they all look like scooters. We'll have to see, but I do imagine that the first bikes that they'll introduce won't be competitors of people like Zero and Energica and stuff like that. It's going to be the small stuff. It's going to be 125 equivalents, maybe up to a 300 equivalent, something like that. That's all there is really to say on that, because they haven't announced basically any more that I've seen. It's all a wait and see. They've also said around the same time, and this one I'm going to go back to what I was saying about alternative fuels. Obviously I've recently done videos talking about synthetic fuel, and I'm talking about synthetic fuel in the sense that it is made from carbon and hydrogen, opposed to biofuels like ethanol. You can get pure ethanol running cars, you know, E100, well, a very popular one is E85, and you've probably heard of E85 from various different car channels, you know, of people who've done conversions on cars. Mark Your Car Mods loves doing E85 conversions. Well, Honda have said they're going to bring out a flexi fuel bike, which basically means it can take anything from, like, you know, normal fuels to E100, which is like full ethanol. Now obviously this fuel is made by growing corn and doing processes on it to turn it into an alcohol, and no, it's not an alcohol you can drink. Now I haven't done a huge amount of research on biofuels and their validity to the future, but I do know a few things. They do help you have a very powerful engine. You know, pure ethanol is great for high compression, very accurate timing, but it's not good for mileage at all. So it is an option in the future, you know, that we could have a petrol, the equivalent of a petrol bike with ethanol. But obviously that's still classed as internal combustion and will still get banned in the future, presumably. And there's not that far away for them to, you know, develop it, sell it, and then get rid of it. So whether that's just like a token gesture of like, yeah, we'll have options for people who want to stick with petrol in the future. I mean, they mentioned one they might produce, you know, just to give another option out there. So yeah, it's kind of interesting that they've gone down that line, but I still don't see biofuels or any combustible fuels being our future because of things I've previously stated. It'd be interesting to see if any other manufacturers consider going down the lines of that sort of thing. Obviously that much ethanol in the fuel causes some other issues. If it's got any rubbers or anything like that, they will get destroyed unless they're designed for it. But obviously in a flexi fuel bike, that's not going to be an issue. I do believe that ethanol can cause rusting, premature rusting with things and degradation and stuff, but as long as it's relatively modern and looked after, I don't think that necessarily is going to be that much of an issue from what I've seen. But I haven't actually seen much about basically alcohol-powered bikes. So yeah, it's just a little quick one about some future things from Honda, but I thought maybe you might have missed them because I had to go digging to find stuff in the news that wasn't related to, you know, obviously ongoing current events. If you enjoyed this video or you found it interesting or useful, please do make sure your ass glances that like button on the way out, and I'll catch you in the next one. Huge thanks to my patrons. Bye bye.